It's daylight savings time. Everyone's super excited, right? I'm sure your kids are just gonna magically sleep in an extra hour. Yeah, right. If they do, call me, let me know, because mine do not. So I'm gonna give you some tips on how I prepare for daylight saving time so that I don't have to get up at 4:30 in the morning with my little ones. So first, let's head into the kids' room and I will tell you about what we do. So about a week to 10 days before daylight saving time in the fall, this year it's gonna be November 1st, we start putting the kids to bed a half an hour later. So here's the kids' room. We actually have a clock in the kids' room and we have just the hours shown, as you can see. My 3-year-old knows the numbers, so she knows she can't get out of bed in the morning until it says 7. So that we have that going for us. But unfortunately, the 18-month-old does not know his numbers and does not know to stay in bed until 7. So the other morning he woke up, he usually wakes up about 6:30, 6:45, which means in a couple weeks, when we have daylight saving change, he will be up at 5:20, 5:30, 5:45, and I really am not looking forward to that. So what we're gonna do is about 7 to 10 days before, so starting about October 24th, we are going to 23rd, somewhere around there, whatever works for you. We're gonna start putting the kids to bed a half an hour later. So instead of their 7 o'clock bedtime, we're gonna put their bedtime at 7:30, all right? And I'm gonna change the clock in their room a half an hour ahead, okay? So it'll say 7 o'clock, but it'll actually be 7:30 in real time. So I do that so that their body starts adjusting. So, and about 5-6 days into that, you'll see that they start waking up, gradually waking up later and later. They naturally will start sleeping a little later and later than what they're used to because they're going to bed a little later, okay? So that's the first thing. So although I'm putting them to bed a half an hour later, the morning time is still gonna be the same at first because their body hasn't adjusted, okay? So unfortunately, they don't just look at the clock and then roll over and say, oh, I have an extra hour to sleep, an extra half hour to sleep, like we do as adults, or lay in bed and enjoy our quiet time. So this week before daylight saving time, they are still gonna be waking up at the same time most of the week. And you'll see towards the end of the week, as we get closer, they will start naturally sleeping a little bit later, and that's the goal. So the goal is for my kids who normally get up at 7, who wake up about 6:45, by the end of this week, they will actually be waking up about 7:15, okay? Maybe even 7:30. So the goal is, because we're about to switch time, which means after daylight savings, that will actually be 6:15, 6:30. So we are gradually helping their bodies adjust. Instead of doing an hour all at once, we do a half an hour before daylight savings time, and then hopefully they'll be a little bit more adjusted and you'll lose less sleep in the mornings because they'll only be waking up about a half an hour early instead of an hour early after the time change. So that is the goal. The other thing we usually do is we switch the time so they go to bed a half an hour later than normal, and that will help with them after 5, 6, 7 days to start waking up a little later, but it takes a while. If you think your kids are very routine and very set in when they wake up in the morning, then you could even have them go to bed an hour later and hope that that'll start changing the morning routine. Now, you do have to make some sacrifices. Our evening time when the kids go to bed is when we and my husband have our own time by ourselves. And so that is a sacrifice we make so that they will start sleeping in, so that we don't have to get up an hour early with them after the time change. So that's up to you if you want to, how much in advance you want to try it. How much does your evening time mean to you versus your morning time? For me, I really don't want to get up at 5:30 with my kids. So I am willing to sacrifice the evening time and push their bedtime back a week and a half early so that they can start sleeping in gradually throughout this time before the time change. The other thing we do is we do nap times. I try and do snack, lunch, nap time, all of those things also a week and a half before the time change. I also push those back a half an hour. So we normally eat lunch about 11:30. I'm gonna try and do their lunch at noon. Instead of nap at noon for my little guy, we're gonna do it at 12:30. Now, again, this 30 minutes, if anyone doesn't have kids, it doesn't sound like that big of a deal. If you do have kids, you know that pushing a toddler's nap time 30 minutes later sometimes can be tough, and maybe he just wants to be held or he's grouchy for those 30 minutes. Again, in the beginning, the first 4 or 5 days will be tough, but then they start to adjust. So this is, again, I do the 30 minutes now so that after the time change, it isn't as much of a jump, because it is definitely hard when the time change comes. Not only them waking up early in the morning, but they want to have lunch at 10:30. I'm like, it's not time for lunch, kids. You gotta wait. Or they want to have dinner at 4:30. I'm like, you can't, because we gotta space it out. We have things to do. And so again, doing this a week and a half, 30 minutes later for bedtime. And then we also adjust. I do not adjust the morning, because it's, again, hard to get them to sleep in the morning, because they're awake in their room. So whenever they wake up is fine. And then the snack and the lunch and dinner and everything is 30 minutes. Push that up 30 minutes as well. So instead of 11:30 lunch, we do noon lunch. The same thing with naps. Instead of laying down at 1 p.m. for nap, we lay down at 1:30. And therefore, they're gradually adjusting their bodies and their routines up by 30 minutes, so that when we have the time change, the morning of November 1st, the kids are a little bit more adapted, and that second 30 minutes to make the complete hour time change isn't as difficult. So those are my tips for you to not go insane and hopefully not lose too much sleep this time change on November 1st. If you have suggestions of what works well for you and your family for daylight saving time, please let me know. Drop it in the comments below and let's share what works for us. So if you like my videos, be sure to subscribe and hit the like button, and see what else I have on my videos for other tips of how to love your little ones and be successful and help them be successful. Bye, everyone.